It was a cold, overcast afternoon when Jasmine Wilson found herself standing outside her small apartment in the heart of the city. Her hands trembled as she clutched the crumpled letter in her hand, a letter from her in-laws that had shattered her sense of security. "We can't help you anymore. You're on your own." That was all it said, in black ink on white paper, but the weight of the words felt as though the ground beneath her was slipping away. Her in-laws had always been distant, but never in her worst nightmares did she imagine they would abandon her and her young son, Xavier. Jasmine had always done her best to keep her head above water. At 28 years old, she had been juggling multiple part-time jobs just to make ends meet, all the while taking care of her 6-year-old son, Xavier. Her ex-husband, a man who had promised her the world, had disappeared into the shadows of his own life. She hadn't heard from him in over a year, and the child support payments had stopped coming long before that. Jasmine had found herself alone in a city that seemed to eat up every ounce of energy she had. The days following the letter were some of the hardest Jasmine had ever faced. Her mother-in-law, whom she had once seen as a mother figure, now viewed her with disdain. Her father-in-law, a successful businessman, refused to even acknowledge her existence. Their abandonment was not just emotional, it was practical. They had stopped offering any form of support, financial or emotional. The promise of family had dissolved, leaving Jasmine and Xavier in a cold, unforgiving world. Xavier, despite being so young, had noticed the tension. He had asked his mother why Grandma and Grandpa weren't coming to visit anymore, why they weren't offering to help them like they used to. Jasmine had always been honest with him, explaining that sometimes people change, and not always in ways that are easy to understand. But Xavier was a perceptive child. He could feel the strain in his mother's voice and the exhaustion in her eyes. He wanted to make her happy, but at such a young age he was powerless. One evening, after putting Xavier to bed, Jasmine sat on the couch, exhausted from another long shift at the diner. The weight of the world seemed to press on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She had never imagined that her life would be like this. All she had ever wanted was a family, a stable home, a husband, a loving support system. But instead, she had been left to navigate the world alone, with only the memory of a failed marriage and a broken promise of family. It was then that her phone buzzed, breaking the silence of the room. She glanced down at the screen, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the name. It was a text from her former boss, Lucas Grant. Lucas was a man who seemed to have everything. He was a millionaire entrepreneur, known for his involvement in various business ventures, from tech startups to real estate investments. He had hired Jasmine as a part-time server at his upscale restaurant a year ago, and while their relationship had always been strictly professional, they had developed a mutual respect for one another. Lucas had always been kind, but she had never imagined that he would reach out to her outside of work. The text read, "Hey, Jasmine, I hope you're doing well. I know things have been tough for you lately. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call. Take care." Jasmine stared at the message for a long moment. It was brief, but it was also the first sign of kindness she had received in a long time. She had never shared the full extent of her struggles with Lucas, but somehow he seemed to know. Maybe it was the tone of her voice the last time she had worked for him, or maybe it was just a gut feeling. Either way, the offer felt like a lifeline. She hesitated, unsure whether to take him up on his offer. She didn't want to appear weak or desperate, but the truth was she was both. She had always prided herself on being independent, on doing things on her own. But now, standing at the edge of a precipice, Jasmine realized she couldn't do it all by herself. The next day, she sent a simple reply. "Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate it more than you know. I might take you up on your offer soon." A few hours later, her phone buzzed again. It was Lucas. "I'm glad to hear that. If you ever want to talk or need help with anything, I'm here. No strings attached." The words were like a balm to her wounded spirit. She was used to people offering help, but the strings, there were always strings. People wanted something in return, whether it was money, favor, or just the satisfaction of being in control. But Lucas's words felt genuine, and for the first time in a long while, Jasmine allowed herself to believe that there were still good people in the world. A week passed, and things continued to spiral. Her bills piled up, and the thought of Xavier being deprived of the things he needed broke her heart. She couldn't bear the thought of him feeling the same pain she had felt as a child, abandoned, neglected, alone. One evening, while Xavier was playing in the living room, Jasmine felt the tears welling up in her eyes. She wiped them away quickly, but it was no use. She couldn't stop the overwhelming sense of helplessness that consumed her. That night, she made a decision. She picked up her phone and called Lucas. "Lucas," she said, her voice shaky. I need help." The conversation that followed was a mixture of vulnerability and relief. Jasmine explained her situation as best as she could, holding nothing back. Lucas listened, his voice calm and understanding. When she was done, there was a pause, as if he were taking in the full weight of her words. Then he spoke. "Jasmine, I've been thinking about you. I know this is hard for you, but I want you to know you're not alone in this. I'm willing to help, whatever you need. Financial support, a job, anything. We'll figure this out together." Jasmine felt the floodgates open, and for the first time in months, she cried. She cried for the hurt, for the fear, for the uncertainty, but she also cried for hope. Hope that things could get better, hope that Xavier's future didn't have to be defined by struggle and hardship. Over the next few weeks, Lucas's support was a game changer. He not only provided financial assistance, but also connected Jasmine with job opportunities. He even offered to help with Xavier's schooling, ensuring that he had access to the resources he needed to thrive. With Lucas's guidance and kindness, Jasmine was able to breathe again, to stand tall in a world that had once felt so unforgiving. Months passed, and the transformation was nothing short of remarkable. Jasmine's confidence grew as she found her footing in her new life. Xavier was excelling in school, and the bond between mother and son grew stronger each day. They had moved into a better apartment, one with more space and a sense of stability. And though things were still not perfect, Jasmine could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Lucas's generosity had changed everything. He didn't just give her money, he gave her the tools to rebuild her life. But more than that, he gave her something that had been missing for so long, a sense of belonging, a sense of family. And as Jasmine stood on the balcony of their new home one evening, looking out at the city lights, she realized that the life she had once dreamed of, one filled with love, security, and happiness, was finally within her reach. In the end, it wasn't just a millionaire's help that had saved her. It was the kindness of a man who believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. It was the unwavering love of a mother for her son. And it was the strength to rise above the pain and find the life she deserved.